Sorry, assholes, your quiet day at the office is about to get severely fucked up.
Guys, welcome back to the After Action Review. You guys know me. I'm the world's most okayest Green Beret, Nick Guy. And with me, we have, I'm going to say it, man. You know, it's not just, I'm just going to say it. I'm not going to try and fluff up my guests, but we have really one of the up-and-coming young journalist sensations, and he's living in a world where those are few and far between, because we know how we all feel about the majority of journalists on this program. Julio Rosas, what's going on, man?
Yut!
Oh, man.
Gotta start things off strong, you know?
Chesty.
No, well, Chesty, Mattis, Dan Daly, and then Chesty again. Yeah.
How about this? You remember your ditties? Who's the grand old man in the Marine Corps?
Oh, that's Archibald Henderson, 39 years.
I thought I was going to get you with that one.
No.
You guys know him from
Twitter.
You guys know him from Twitter.
Twitter.
He's a senior writer at townhall.com, which is a great online publication, and he's got bylines with the Washington Examiner and Mediaite. Most recently, and like I had hinted to, this is a big step up, because last week you were on Tucker Carlson, and this week you were on my program. So you're just moving up in the world. Like, you're here,
absolutely.
You were here, then you were here with Tucker, and now you're all the way up here with Nick Guy.
Well, absolutely. You know how SF guys are.
Yeah, well, you know. So he's also a United States Marine, currently serving in the reserves. So he's kind of like me. I play the part-time gig as well. So you know how it goes.
Yeah, no, I love to serve my country, but only on the weekends for 2 days, and then after that, it's like no more.
You don't want to overdo it. You don't want to overdose on the Marine Corps, dude.
Yeah,
you know what happens? You know what happens when you overdose on the Marine Corps?
What?
You find yourself marrying the type of woman who's insists on being called by her husband's rank.
Oh, geez, yeah. That's every brand.
Then next thing you know, you're buying a Chevy Camaro at 20% APR, and
you got 5 kids on the way.
You got 4 kids and 1 on the way, and the final stage is you just getting fat and old and wearing 9-line apparel.
Well, I mean, this is grunt style, all right, but like this is like one of my favorite sweatshirts. But you're right. You're absolutely right.
See, so don't overdose. I actually dress for the occasion as well, because I know you covered a lot of Antifa stuff. So I'm wearing my version of the Antifa shirt, featuring a beautiful Chinook in flight, graceful, gorgeous, and this little guy, he's falling out the back. So
yeah, because that's what you take him for a little ride.
Yeah, just for a ride.
Yeah.
They ride for free. All right, man. Before we jump into it, we want to talk about the whole Virginia, the Second Amendment protest, because that was the big news. But first, when you got in here, man, like, you're like, dude, I have this craziest story. Not everybody was on, so just take us through what you told me, because I joke about prepping for this with the plague doctor get up, but now I'm starting to think it could be a good idea.
It's that meme I sent you where it's like, the plague doctor is like, son of a bitch, I'm in for 2020 after 1720, 1820, 1920, and all those plagues. Yeah, so apparently a student at George Mason University, which is one of the schools here in Virginia, Apparently, he came back from Wuhan, which has been a popular name to say in the news recently because of that virus. And apparently, he said that he wasn't feeling well. Like Mr. Stark, I don't feel so good. But he's not going to the doctor, and he's choosing to self-isolate. Whatever that means, and I don't know how. I mean, does he have does he have roommate or roommates?
They're probably the ones that blew the whistle.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, and the school sent emails about this kid saying like, yeah, he's not going to the hospital, and so yeah, no, I don't know, man, because like I had drill this weekend, and we were out in Quantico, in the backwoods, so like I know I'm good, for a little bit, but then I took the metro to work this morning.
You're doomed, dude.
And so now I'm probably just as exposed as everyone else.
You're doomed.
Yeah.
All right, so, like, listen, I am really not a fan of the government telling people what to do, but at some point, there's got to be, like, a line drawn in terms of, like, a public health interest and, like, somebody, the CDC, like, coming to this kid's place, putting him in one of those biosphere suits and taking him to a hospital. Because one, if he's not feeling well, like you probably need some help.
Yeah.
And two, I don't care how self-isolated you are on a college campus, like eventually you're going to have to come out for air. Because when I was a college student, it's not like I kept enough food in the room to sustain like a lengthy stay.
As you know, like if someone gets sick in the dorm, everyone is gonna get that.
Everybody's gonna get it.
Everyone gets sick.
Oh my god!
It happens. Everyone comes back from like break or whatever, and from wherever they're traveling, and then they bring their regional diseases back to one area, and then everyone gets it because they're from different places.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah, no, so apparently DC is next on the list for the coronavirus, which is funny because I thought the coronavirus was what you called the hangover after drinking shitty beer.
Well, that's what I always thought. And now, me personally, I'm a fan of inoculations and vaccines. So I've just been taking like diabetic needles and injecting small amounts of corona right into my veins in order to build a tolerance and a resistance to the coronavirus.
I have to check the corpsman. I have to check the corpsman with that one because I don't think that's how it works. But
listen,
what do I know? I'm a college dropout.
We all know what the corpsman's going to tell you. 800 milligrams of Motrin. Take a knee, change your socks, and drink water, and that's it.
No, that's all you got to do. It cures 90% of all the ails of the military man.
Yeah, sucking chest wound. Take some Motrin. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Well, we'll keep an eye on that. We'll keep an eye on that on the program.
It might be right in my face.
Yeah, dude. You were right in the metro. You're done for. Listen, it was great knowing you. We'll see.
My first and last appearance on the Nick Guy show.
Well, you're coming out on top. If you go out now, like right after the appearance on the After Action review, like you're already going out on top. So
quit while you're ahead.
MJ could have learned a lesson from that.
Oh, jeez. Oh, my gosh.
Michael Jordan, not Michael Jackson.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I thought you got to be specific. There's two of them.
No, the good one.
Okay.
All right, dude.
All right, now I feel more comfortable. I feel more comfortable.
Yeah, we're just talking about like how like he left his career, he went out on top, and then he came back and played for the team that he owned.
Well, Michael Jackson had a great career too, and then stuff happened, and then
Yeah, and then next thing you know, you're the subject of a Netflix documentary, and that's not where anybody wants to be. That's like his colleagues are recently Aaron Hernandez and Chinese politicians who implemented the one-child policy. So that's not a list that you want to be on.
No.
All right, dude. Let's go back. Let's go back to the Second Amendment protests in Virginia, and I'm going to say, I publicly advocated, and it was like one of those tweets that kind of blew up and I lost control of, and it got started, being shared around and things like that. Where I said, don't go to this thing because it smells like a sting operation. Like there's going to be cameras there, there's going to be feds there, there's going to be state police. in a state that is turned vehemently anti-gun right. People showed up, but they didn't actually go into like that actual protest area that they had.
No, they did. People did, but like it wasn't the majority. The majority of the people were outside the security perimeter, because if you had to go inside, you couldn't bring weapons of it.
Yeah,
I think the only thing you could bring was like a pocket knife of like 3 inches. I think that was like the rule.
Okay.
That was okay.
Okay, and then just to add a little bit of backstory here, like this is a yearly recurring
lobby day.
It's lobby day. It basically opens up the public space for citizens to air their concerns to their. I think in Virginia you guys have delegates, correct? Like
yes,
delegates. Okay. But the majority of people stayed outside the lobby day area. And they were open carrying, and we all had a bunch of laughs at how funny their kit looked and how they didn't fit in it. And listen, and before we go any further, I will always applaud somebody exercising their Second Amendment rights and advocating for such rights. But I also reserve the right to make fun of a dude who is stuffed into a medium-sized plate carrier when he's at a minimum an XL, maybe even a double XL. So. We had all sorts of kits. We even had a Boogaloo shirt spotting. That was exciting.
Oh, there were a few Boogaloos. I saw a few guys in Hawaiian shirts.
Yeah. I love that aloha wear.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so just take us through your thoughts, because you were there on the grounds. And
yeah. So it was interesting because obviously because like us being DC youngsters, we went out to brunch the day before on Sunday.
Oh, that's what yuppies do.
Yeah, well, okay, first off, I will defend brunch until my dying day. Anyway. But I was, since my car finally kicked it, I was taking a ride down with Alex Sears, who's a good friend of mine. And so we were joking around, it's kind of like, appreciate everyone coming for, Julio and Alex's, last supper before we all, die at this horrendous thing. And, it was all kind of in jest. But really, because, the thing that I point to a lot is, and I mentioned this on Tucker, but like I was at Charlottesville. All right, I've covered protests prior to that, but Charlottesville was just a whole different beast, and I was completely unprepared because another friend of mine who was at USA Today at the time, he invited me a month prior, and he like really downplayed it because he was like, oh, it's just Richard Spencer, and he's just gonna talk. And there's gonna be a few like counter protests there. I'm like, all right, I think it was like a Saturday or Sunday. I'm like, I don't have anything better to do. I'll go to. So I was wearing shorts. I was wearing tennis shoes. I completely underestimated it. And I finally get there, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, this is really bad. So that's kind of my level. That's kind of like my measurement of like, okay, has shit hit the fan, and things pretty much hit the fan in Charlottesville. And when I got there to Richmond, it was like it was like the chillest thing ever, both like attitude wise and temperature. It was freaking cold that day, on Monday. And so, once I got there, I'm just like, oh yeah, it's just people just walking around and just, just having a good time and having a laugh. And yeah, I know how, people were making fun of, and don't get me wrong, some of it was mock-worthy because I know that one guy who had a shotgun in his backpack and it's sticking out at 45 degrees.
Yeah, it looked like it was gonna just tip on out.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and it's like, and it's just like, dude, come on, like you gotta secure that. But by and large, I saw, people were being very safe with their firearms, and that's really a testament, right? Because it's not about the weapon; it's about the people behind it. And
well, that's what we say.
Well, yeah. And
that's not necessarily what the left says.
No, that's what I mean by like us, like gun rights advocates. It's kind of like in Black Hawk Down, like, oh, this is my safety, right? Yeah, and that's true to an extent, but obviously, you want to take steps to ensure that you minimize the accidental, because stuff happens. But
go ahead.
It was very calm, very peaceful. It was totally overhyped and just really quick because prior to the week leading up to that event, I was thinking, what was my angle going to be? talk to people, and you got to go a little bit more than just, oh, why are you here? Because everyone's gonna ask that question. But then when I saw Ben Collins over at NBC tweet about how this was a white nationalist rally on my way to brunch, I was in a bad mood at brunch because of that. And so right away, I was thinking, oh, well, there it is. That, like, literally my job, the next day was going to be just take all the pictures of the minorities that were at this rally. And that's what I did. And because it was such a huge narrative, it was really, and I wasn't obviously listening to the cable networks because I was on the ground there. But when I started to look back at it and I saw some of the clips, they were saying white nationalists, it was a mix, and it wasn't really a mix of white nationalists at all. I saw like 3 Confederate flags, 2 of which it was like this weird half American flag, half Confederate flag, and the "Don't Tread on Me" snake right in the middle. And it was just like, do you know history at all? Like, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But, and the Confederate flag's another can of worms, but yeah, I saw more minorities there than I saw Confederate flags, which is saying something because it is Virginia, in like the capital of the Confederacy. And then the only Klan robe I saw was Governor Northam's yearbook picture that they had on protest signs. That was like I can honestly say that was the only Klan robe I saw, and so it was just this overhyped nonsense of a bunch of people, clutching their pearls at the side of, oh, there's AR-15s and there's going to be people. It's automatically going to be bad. And thankfully nothing happened. But, on the ground, I felt completely fine. And I can't say the same. And I said this, I can't say the same when I was in Portland, or I was in Milwaukee recently, and, things got really tense there when those counter protesters and Antifa showed up to that Trump rally, and all the other protests I've been to, this was the most safest, protest I've ever been at.
Well, I think especially among gun owners, I honestly there's really no stereotype for a gun owner. Obviously stereotypes exist, but
right. Well, I'm saying because obviously I'm on the coast, right? So there is a stereotype, and actually I forgot who it was, the New York Times or the Washington Post. There's an op-ed saying the stereotypical gun owner, the white man with the gun. So there is a stereotype to the East Coast bubbles, but
yeah, but anything else, in that coastal elite society, the flyover states kind of society, those two, they exist, and let's face it. Let's just look at the photographic evidence. Most of the people there were white males. Yeah. But listen, it
was a good mix, though.
But and honestly, if you go to the range, maybe not on a weekday, because those are going to be your serious guys. If you go to the range on a Saturday afternoon, I think most people would be shocked. People that don't go to the range would be shocked at how diverse the crowd is.
Yeah,
seriously, gun ownership it spans political boundaries as well. I know plenty of left-leaning people that own firearms and train. Well, I'm not going to say regularly, but semi-regularly. But so that it transcends that. It's a political issue, just like other hot button issues like abortion or immigration. There's, I don't know. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, no, it's definitely not a monolith. And actually, that's interesting that you brought up, because that's actually kind of a good thing to segue into with that Vice reporter. That Vice reporter, who was the whole point of that video, because here's the thing, I like Vice's overseas videos. That's the thing that I think they do really well. Not necessarily they're online.
Well, they haven't. I'm gonna jump in here, and then we gotta get back to this because this is an important point. But dude, I think they used to be good. They were doing hard hitting ISIS stuff back before ISIS was really a thing. They embedded I don't know how Vice was able to get an embed with ISIS, but they did.
Yeah.
Or they were publishing like found footage from GoPros from fighters and things like that. Like that's good journalism. Dude, they did a documentary on some cannibal warlords in sub-Saharan Africa.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, this is like, well, it's not a good topic. Like, it's a sad story, but this is like really good. They lost it, man.
Yeah, they're getting back into it, and that's how I discovered this video, because I've kind of been on a binge. Like, they did a lot of good stuff on the illegal oil fields in Africa and all that. Like, they've done a lot of good stuff recently, and that's why I then stumbled upon this video that they made about smart guns and how, you know, this is using technology to prevent accidental discharge. And the video starts out with the guy, Brian Anderson, talking to a mother who lost her son because he was over at a friend's house and they found a gun and the friend shot him and it killed him. And like, that's sad and that's tragic. And then he goes to a gun store owner, I believe, and obviously the gun store owner is like, no, I don't trust guns, like smart guns and technology and all that. But then he goes to the ATF vault, like their giant vault where they store all these types of firearms. And the video, as he's narrating, he's actually shown like firing shotguns, firing handguns, and then also handling the weapons that are in the vault. And right away, the first red flag, he gets handed a gold-plated AK-47, and it had a mag inserted.
Jack's hot.
Right away, his finger went automatically to the bang switch. Right away. And I'm like, oh no, like, that's not a good sign. At first, and then he gets handed a Tommy gun. You know, back in like 1920s and gangsters and all that. And then that's
with the drum mag, by the way, like the cool ones.
And in my tweet, I accidentally said drug mag because I was so infuriated. And so he then shows sweeping towards the cameraman and then pulling dry firing on his buddy. And I was thinking, what the hell is wrong with you? Now, here, keep in mind, I also blame the Alphabet Boy who was there, because automatically the first gun that was shown, and obviously I don't know what order it was, because he could have done the AK first or the Thompson first, but if he showed the AK first, and he should have said, hey man, don't point, don't put your finger on the trigger. They're like, don't do that. But then also because, like I said, it showed video of him shooting guns at the vault, and so I'm thinking he had to gone through a safety brief. But then again, it's the ATF, so I don't know.
Yeah,
it's the government. They might have not. I don't know.
You never know when a dog is going to roam into the ATF office, and you need to be ready to take care of it.
you're not wrong.
No, man.
And so. It was just, and it didn't occur to me until people pointed out later after I posted that clip, because obviously I was seeing that because they decided to keep that in the video, because they were probably thinking like, oh, haha, look at this cute, like he accidentally shot me, this is kind of funny. Like, they left that in there. If I were to all of a sudden one day become a dumbass, I could be one now, I don't know, and I took video of myself dry firing on my buddy, I'm not going to post that, because I would rightfully be just put through the ringer online like people did to that Brian Anderson. And so it was just like, what the hell? So Vice is getting good, but they still have a lot of room to work with, for sure.
They were there, and then they were here, and I hope they kind of climb back up, because I really enjoyed the stuff they were putting out in like 2013, 2014.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But going back to that video, man, like, if anything, like, a pro Second Amendment dude can literally make the argument. He says, and he can say, or she, because there are plenty of, I'm not being sexist here, but any Second Amendment advocate can point to that video and say, this is the reason. It's ignorance. It's not knowing these kinds of things. Like, you're like, on the video, it didn't just cut to him holding this thing. It cut to this dude handing it to him. And like, instead of saying like, listen, every time you take control of a firearm, you need to clear the firearm. Like, like that's basic stuff. Like somebody, if I don't know that chamber is empty, the first thing I'm doing is clearing the firearm. Like that's it.
Yeah.
It didn't happen, so that just shows the ignorance of what is it, Brian?
Brian, I think it was like Brian Anderson or something.
It
like
doesn't
that.
matter. It doesn't matter. So, but that's what it comes down to, man. It's ignorance, dude. Like seriously, like I one of my favorite things is taking people who think that guns are evil or they are inherently dangerous, and I like taking them to the range. It's one of my favorite things to do because it's an eye opener.
It's about education. You got it.
And dude, we didn't have stories of like where this Vice piece started off with like the tragic death of a young kid who was killed because he and his buddy got into his buddy's dad's, self-defense gun and accidentally killed him. Like, dude, first off, we used to teach like firearm safety in public schools.
Yeah.
And things like this did not happen. It didn't. Like these negligent discharges, well, they say there's no such thing as an accidental discharge. There's only such thing as a negligent discharge. But when kids are curious about firearms and somebody is tragically killed, that's an accidental in my book. But that's because they didn't know what they were fooling around with.
Yeah, they had an idea, right? Because
but to them it's just a cool, hey man, like you want to see my dad's gun, and it's like, oh yeah, dude. And then next thing you know, they're fiddling with it, and a round goes off, and a kid is dead, and it is tragic. It is.
Yeah.
But because we have stigmatized firearms, these things happen. If you remove the stigma, if you educate people, like I said, the same way I can take a hardcore leftist to the range and show them, look, I will load this rifle. I will load this very scary AR-15. I will chamber around, and I'm going to place it on this table, and it's just going to sit there. It is not inherently evil. It is not inherently dangerous. It's the same thing that has to happen, man. It's unbelievable. I think we're just doing kids a huge disservice by making guns out to be the scary thing that is super taboo and things like that. Because when they run across it, because kids are curious, kids are stupid. We know kids are stupid. I was stupid when I was 8, 9 years old, and if given the opportunity to fiddle around with a gun, and I didn't know I didn't know the potential for something bad happening, I would have done the same thing. So, I mean, these are all avoidable deaths, or they're tragic. Each and every single one is tragic, but they are all avoidable. And a piece like that does not help their cause, dude. I stopped watching the documentary because it started out like the informative aspect. Started out good, and then because it was like 40 minutes, I think, and that was like 10 minutes in, and right away it's just like, well, clearly this guy does not know anything, or if he did learn it from the ATF guy's hopefully safety brief, he clearly did not retain it. And and then that's my favorite part too, because the ATF guy he still lets him hold the weapon after that dry fire on his buddy, and he's just kind of like like yeah. Like, dude, like take that weapon away from him. Like, clearly he's unable to safely handle that. And thoughts and prayers to the camera guy. Jeez, God, dude, that was a serious butthole pucker like moment.
Oh yeah,
like you hear the click of that hammer or that firing pin shooting forward, and I was like, oh my God.
It's right at you.
Like well, first off, you know what they say about assumptions. It makes an ass of you and me. Yeah. But you're in like the ATF's vault of classic firearms. That's what Brian thought. He's like, oh, there's no way this is freaking loaded. But dude, weirder things have happened.
Oh yeah, no, and that's what I'm saying. That's why I do blame the alphabet boy, because he even just even having the mag inserted Yeah, you don't need that. You don't need that. You're not firing it. So we take the mag out. You know, I'm sure he cleared it, but still, just I don't know. Maybe he was just
Still,
trying to
dude.
really. He was just trying to really impress the dude. I don't know.
Even the alphabet boy, you could see on his face when that
Oh yeah.
happened. Like you could see, he's like, "Oh no, what did I just do?" Like, but
But he should
slap
have.
it
He should have
away.
done. He should have had more of a reaction than just having a cringe face. Having
Yeah,
cringe. Hey,
no,
that's fine.
absolutely. Slap the gun away and then slap the dude. Like,
Yeah.
it's not difficult. Oh my
Yeah.
god.
So when I saw that, I was just like, oh, and here's the thing. Going back to Virginia, I didn't. Now, obviously, I wasn't everywhere, so I can't say this never happened. But I was all over the place, and I did not see a single dry fire of any kind of weapon.
That's
But right away, and Amber Athey, she posted the side by side of the Vice's article about this dangerous Second Amendment rally descending upon Richmond, and then just that still of Brian having the Thompson right in your face, and
dude.
so
Oh god.
and of course that's just another list in a long line of just media screwing up firearms, and that just goes back, and this is where it's important to have, because Stephen Gutowski over at the Free Beacon, he's an awesome reporter, but he's just very knowledgeable about firearms, and that's why he fits in perfectly. But he is literally just one guy out of the entire media apparatus, which is big, right? Because it's all over the country. And I'm sure there's other good people too, but there's just not nearly enough of them. And one of the things that he pointed to, and I think is really true, because they view guns in the crime category, right? So usually when you're talking about firearms, you're doing it in the context of crimes and them being committed in bad ways. And so automatically it sets the topic of firearms in that negative light, because, I mean, yeah, it does happen, obviously. But, to flip that over to then point to, good self-defense stories, and just going to SHOT Show, Matt Vespa, who's my coworker at Town Hall, he just went to the SHOT Show, had a great time. He lived amongst those, thousands of firearms and all that, went to range day. And the media just needs to have more of those people, because it is a culture. It's a gun culture, right, in the country. And so
And
it's really
it's not gonna change, dude.
I know it's wishful thinking. I know that, and because the media as a whole is very, very terrible, and not just in the firearms category. But I mean, and that's just saying, I don't know what the answer is. I don't know how to fix it, but that right there is an easy problem to fix. Is you hire somebody that's knowledgeable in firearms, and you're already halfway to the solution when it comes to the media covering that topic. I know it's not as easy in terms of the execution, but the actual, like, it just takes the will of them. And unfortunately, you're right, because the Washington Post is headquartered right in downtown DC, which is, yeah, technically they have concealed carry, but you can't take it into a government building. You can't take it into a government building or a place that has alcohol, and that's like 80% of the buildings in DC is either government buildings or bars. And so
you better be a sitting U.S. senator, if you have any hopes of, despite McDonald v. Chicago, in which the DC handgun ban was rolled up. I don't have the case law in front of me, but a congruent case about gun rights dealing with the District of Columbia was rolled into. Well, you got Heller v. DC, but Heller v. DC,
and that was Heller versus DC was about AR-15s.
It was.
Yeah.
Now you have McDonald v. Chicago, which is a landmark case, and it kills me because it was literally a landmark decision, and it changed nothing in terms of laws. It really didn't. Like, it came down from the highest court in the land, and it changed nothing.
I mean, it didn't because Illinois was one of the last places when it came to strict concealed carry policy, and that did help ease it off. Now, obviously, it's Illinois, and it sucks when it comes to gun laws, but you're right. The changes from that case should have been a lot more than what the actual result was.
It did, because the case law was very clear. It went beyond just the handgun ban within the city limits of Chicago. And if guys back home aren't listening, and I'm going to nerd out here because with what I studied in college, because I thought I was going to be an attorney, I did a lot of pre-law courses, including some constitutional law. And disclaimer, I am not a constitutional law scholar. I am not. It's not like I have an LLM. It's not like I'm a JD, but it is something that I at least know a little bit about. And McDonald v. City of Chicago was a case that I studied very closely because it interested me. But I also did a lot of writing on it. But it was a landmark decision that said the Second Amendment is such an inherent right. It is such an important right that it trumps any sort of state right. So the states can be like, oh, this is state rights. And typically it's the right wing that goes, oh, it's state rights. But the Supreme Court said it is a right so inherent that it trumps any state or local municipality law. And it did so via the 14th Amendment through the Due Process Clause and / or, as brought in by the majority opinion, the Privileges and Immunities Clause. So basically you had this law come down from this, and it didn't say like, oh, all guns. Like it's not to the level where I personally, who's a Second Amendment absolutist, who thinks that I should be able to own a sloop of war with, 28 deck cannons to conduct my own privateer operations or put a 240 in the bed of my truck. Like that's what I think. But it didn't go that far, but it said, listen, this is a right so inherent, so important that it outweighs everything else. And it does so via the 14th Amendment and the due process and the privileges and immunity clauses. But that's a law that hasn't been implemented. Like that is a ruling from the highest, and it just goes to show how controversial the Second Amendment is. That is a ruling from the highest court in the land. And still you have a state like Virginia who goes, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Watch us.
Yeah. And then you look at California, look at New Jersey, Illinois still, and in certain aspects. And so you're right. And that's why I agree with you, because the effects of it should have been more coming out of that case, but that just shows the will of the people electing these people, to represent them, and they're willing to buck that system. And obviously it's not just limited to the Second Amendment in terms of, well, this is how it should be, but in actuality, practice. Wow. Because I mean, that's the good and bad thing about America, is how those things can kind of turn out. And, and obviously in this case, it's not good. Because this is an important right, and this is something that people hold very near and dear for good, valid reasons.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, good God, McDonald VTC said, "Listen, it is literally the right that protects every other right." Yeah. So it is what it is. But that's where God, that's where we are in just the current discourse in American politics. It's ridiculous, dude.
If the Boogaloo does pop off here in the state, you can bet I'm going to be embedded with the boys over there reporting on it.
Yeah, man. How many Hawaiian shirts do you own?
Currently, 0. I did have a few Hawaiian shirts in middle school because I had no sense of fashion.
Well, first off,
I still don't.
First off, aloha wear is the highest of fashion.
Well, yeah, but only for the Boogaloo.
No. Tommy Bahama is always a valid fashion choice.
Okay, well, this is where my DC elitism is going to show, because it's all gingham shirts, man. It's all this navy blue gingham shirts with the navy blue chinos. That's how I roll.
No. You got to up your fashion game, guy.
No,
the first step.
I will look. Like I said, if this pops off, I will gladly change uniforms and do that.
I'm just saying, man. At that point, it might be too late. Like, you're going to the mall to go to Tommy Bahama. You're like, hey, I need some shirts to rock out, and they're like, I'm sorry, sir, we're in civil unrest. The store is closed. And then you're too late. And then you show up and you just look stupid.
In my 5'11" tactical pants and
oh God, stop it.
Hey, look, And that's what I wear to all the protests. All right, I need something like like I said, I show up to Charlottesville in shorts and cargo shorts, and all right, I got.
You're a minority showing up to Charlottesville.
Yeah.
What did you expect, man? Like, what, you got shorts on? Like, what happens if you need to spring into action and use a little McMap to karate chop?
Well, first, okay,
like a white
supremacist.
supremacist.
First off, I'm a tan belt, so like that level is like barely enough to like just get your ass beat and not die. So you need to get like a black belt with 3 tabs in order to actually learn anything worthwhile. But that's why I got my K-bar. So, I'll just rely on that and just, slash at the air, and hopefully I hit somebody that's trying to attack me, and hopefully I can go home.
And you don't hit like another journalist like covering it.
Oh gosh. Well, see, now there you go, because now it's conservative media literally attacks the mainstream.
Yeah, literally. Now the media is under attack.
Now it's really
white supremacists. Rosas.
Yeah.
Kills.
I've been kind of laughing at all the journalists complaining about the press pens in the Senate.
Dude, that's been amazing, dude. They're so salty about
it. They're like actually, and look, I get it, because like, for example, I was able to walk alongside Ilhan Omar to ask her why she supports sanctions against Israel but not Iran, and I was able to write a story about that because I was able to walk alongside of her. But obviously, the flip side of that is then, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I understand it, but then they take it too far, because they take themselves way too seriously, and that's one of the other problems with media, is that they view themselves as this last bastion of truth. And obviously freedom of the press is important. I'm not saying that it's not, but it's just like so much smoke has been blown up there, to all these people fawning over them, and Orange Man bad, protect us with our paid subscriptions, I guess. And it's just kind of like it's not that hard to be a journalist, and it's just you got it. Like, they're gonna walk by. If they're not gonna answer your question, if you're standing still, then guess what? They're probably not gonna answer the question if you're gonna walk alongside them, because eventually you will reach a point where you can't follow them anymore.
And then, dude, like, I just saw today like footage of Ted Cruz coming out and speaking with the press, and like he was trying to answer questions, and it was just a disaster. Like, they just. They hounded him. Like, you finally get the opportunity. Like, you've been complaining. And again, I know for a fact I have journalists watching this. And if you're watching this, you're one of the journalists I actually like. But like, you spent the last week and a half complaining about how your First Amendment rights, your right to the free press, was literally being stomped on by a fascist regime. And then finally, like, they come out and they take questions, and then they botch it, dude. Like, instead of just asking like orderly questions, like every time Cruz tried to answer. And by the way, big shout out to Ted Cruz's beard, because I think that's a phenomenal look. I think it makes him look a lot less like the Zodiac Killer. But he comes out there with his big, beautiful beard, and he's trying to answer questions, and it turns into a circus, man. It's like,
and then one of them
White House press briefing, like, but it's not a press secretary; it's a sitting U.S. senator. He's not trained to handle,
and one of them brought up his kid, talking about, well, shouldn't your kids be in jail? It's like, well, first off, they're 9 and 11. Like, what? Wait, you seriously?
Like, seriously, like, you finally get your opportunity, and then you just totally 100% botch-a-galoop it. That's what they did.
Yeah, and and that's why people hate the media. Like, I'm gonna kind of go against the grain with some people a little bit, but obviously I'm not a huge fan of Trump saying enemy of the people. I'm fine with them saying fake news, because it happens a lot. And I remember when he first started saying that, like back in 2018, I think, or late 2017. I was like, all right, that's taking it way too far. But then you look at Nick Sandmann, you look at the Des Moines Register, and that whole debacle with Carson King. And obviously this very latest, like literally today, of Ted Cruz talking about Hunter Biden, who's in his 49 or something, has jacked up his whole life and he's been able to get away with it because his dad is a prominent politician.
The dude popped hot for cocaine while he was in the Navy.
Yeah.
And he's not in prison. Like, what?
Yeah. And Ted Cruz is saying, hey, all of this is wrong. And then this guy, and I believe, if I know who it is, because I saw his name being floated around as the guy who asked it, if I know who it is, then the guy is a total liberal hack. And we got to talk about the bracket later, because he should definitely be on the bracket, especially after that.
Wait, comfortably
Smugs, liberal, hack madness bracket, yeah. We got to talk about that. But then you're going to ask, and then you're going to compare Hunter Biden to two little girls. It's like, seriously? Those aren't even comparable. Like, get back to me when one of them is on the board of a company who he shouldn't be on the board in the first place. There's no expertise. Once they start that, then you can come back to me. But we still have 30 more years until we can even get into broach. So if I know who it is, then it's
dude. And Burisma was bad news, man. Like when Russian oligarchs are like, "Oh, we're steering clear of Burisma," like we steer clear. When Russian oligarchs are like, "We're not giving them our money," that should be a huge red flag, because Russian businessmen who are tied to the Kremlin are notoriously fast and loose with how they treat like government-connected businesses and businesses that have significant power, pull, and interest in strategic resources like natural gas. That's a strategic resource.
Oh, yeah.
And, I mean, say what you want about Hunter Biden, man. When he was pictured, he was just pictured today in that beautiful
Porsche
Panamera GTS, man. It was gorgeous. He's got phenomenal taste in cars. He's got his 24-year-old pregnant girlfriend. He's definitely not. He's definitely doing nothing about that kid
in Arkansas.
But he's listen. You just ignore those problems until they go away, dude. He's got brunch to eat at the Waldorf. And
he is definitely not one of us. All right, us brunch people, we have standards.
Listen, Eggs Benny or Eggs Benny. I don't care where you go. Like, you got bottomless mimosas and Eggs Benny. You can't say, "Oh, I'm not one of those brunch people."
Well, and because apparently that's where he's at in LA, and because I've been to the mall. This was, what was it? It was Christmas time when he was spotted. He was taking with his pregnant wife at an outdoor mall, because that's like a big thing over there. And I've been to that mall, and so I was really upset. I was like, "Oh, dang it! I could have staked out that mall that I've been to, and ask him where he's been and all that." But I think it was like New York Post got it or something like that. And so I was a little upset. But next time I go back to LA, and look, I've learned to appreciate certain aspects about Los Angeles. Like the big thing is the nature trails along the mountains and stuff. Like, I actually really enjoy that. But then I look at gas in Santa Monica, and the cheap is like $4.99. It's like, all right, let's chill out here. But yeah, no. So it's just crazy. It's like that whole ordeal is just absolutely nuts, and it's only going to get way worse as election season goes on. So hope the Bidens are ready for that.
I don't know, man. I don't think Uncle Joe's ready for that, man. He's garbling his words right now.
He's tired.
The dude's like 80 years old, man. Let the guy rest. He's earned it.
Orange man bad. You gotta stop him.
Like, let give the guy a break. Like,
his eye
tired.
His eye popped on live TV,
dude. And then today he like gave some answer. Like, he was in Iowa stumping, and he gave some ridiculous answer. Like, the words did not go together. He just like pulled words from the air and put them together in a sentence, and it made zero sense. Like, he's not ready for this. And if they're and honestly, if they're going to keep playing the witness game in the Senate, like, Hunter Biden is definitely he's definitely getting subpoenaed. I don't know if he's going to show up, because my understanding of it is like it's well, maybe for an impeachment it's different. I'm not, like I said, I'm not an LLM, I'm not a JD, so I'm not an expert. But It's like that's a subpoena of Congress. Like, you don't have to show up. They'll find you in contempt of Congress, but that's not a real thing. You know, so like, all right, the Senate subpoenas him and says, hey, you're mandated to show up to testify. Like, I'm pretty sure he can just say no.
No, I mean, he's flubbed the law in other ways, so you know what's one more in his belt.
Listen, man, he had sweet lines to rail while serving in the United States Navy as a JAG too. Wasn't he a JAG?
I don't know. I mean, maybe
I mean, he's an attorney by trade. So
Navy officers, man, they're a whole different breed. It's weird. They're usually fat. Not him though, because clearly he was busy. You know,
dude, he had a lot of energy, dude.
Yeah, he had a lot of energy to burn off.
He had a whole lot of energy.
Yeah. No. But so have you filled out one of Comfortably Smug's liberal hack brackets?
No, because I try not to pay that close of attention. I have like my favorites that I go to for my giggles. Like Brian Stelter is one of the main sources of joy in my life. He really is.
I have a soft spot for him. Like, look, I will obviously, call him out when he's, because I remember one of them was the Jussie Smollett case, because he was saying like, oh, we don't know what really happened that night. Like, we'll never know. And it's like, well, hold up. There's these two brothers. We have Jussie. Like there's people involved. Like, this is not just some random person.
For me, I love Brian because he had Avenatti on all the time, and he was seriously asking Avenatti about a 2020 bid. Like it wasn't like just gaudy talk. Like they had serious discussions on air about Avenatti being the savior of the Democratic Party and the savior of the Republic, and making a serious run in 2020. And then it just came out in court documents, literally just came out this week, that Avenatti was basically Googling what
extortion
insider trading was.
Oh yeah,
the guy is an idiot. Like the guy was like, oh, I'm gonna conduct coercion and insider trading. He's an attorney who deals with contract law. Who he got caught up in the whole Stormy Daniels thing, despite being a litigator or anything like that. But the guy is so stupid. He's literally Googling what is insider trading. Like, dude. And then Stelter's got him on, and Stelter's got to tangle up his leg for this dude. And it was a disaster, man. So some of these guys, like, no, I have not filled out a bracket because I took a look at the field, and I was like, honestly, I don't know who half these people are. I try not to live in a bubble. I like getting my news from all over the place. But that doesn't mean for a second I'm going to sit down and waste my time watching MSNBC or CNN. Like I'd rather get that left slant from the Washington Post or the New York Times.
New York Times, yeah.
Like I'm not going to watch left-leaning cable news. And honestly, I don't really watch right-leaning cable news. Besides, I like Gutfeld's show because Terry Shepard shows up on there, and Terry he tickles me right where I itch. He really does.
I mean, yeah, because that's how that's kind of how I started to get big on Twitter was because I just started out on a Twitter account in high school, and no, I didn't tweet out anything dumb like in my that's the thing I never really got is like, because when I got a Twitter and Facebook, my parents and obviously common sense told me like, hey, this is the internet, don't post anything that's just dumb, don't do that. And so I barely use it, and then when I started working in journalism, and then that's when I saw, okay, this is this is a good tool to have to do stories and cultivate and report on things so that people can see it. And so protesting and covering those protests is how I started to gain a following a little bit. And then it was last year when I started to really cover cable news and stuff like that. So that's kind of how it's just kind of progressed. But yeah, no, it's really interesting because I will often watch stuff on MSNBC or CNN, and someone will say something, and I've just heard it so many times in different ways that it does not like register with me that what they just said was absolutely crazy, because I've heard it so many times. And then I'll see someone else post that clip, and everyone's going crazy, and I'm just thinking, wait, what? Like, really? That's crazy to you guys? And that's just like, I've been so just like inoculated or just desensitized to what these crazy people are saying. And so I really, whenever I hear something, I have to like really think it over and like, is this just absolute nonsense, or is it just like kind of par for the course, which sometimes is the same thing.
Dude, where I'm sitting, all pundits are clowns, except for me. Like, if somebody were to be like, "Hey, Nick, you should show up on cable news and offer some punditry," I'd be like, "Yeah, finally, some good content." Right. I have hot takes, man. I got my takes are so hot. But the other pundits, not me. Other pundits, they're clowns.
Am I a pundit now? Because I was just on Tucker's show, so I don't know if that makes me a pundit now.
I mean, you were reporting though.
Well, that's true. Yeah, and that's the thing too, because like I specifically, because when I joined Town Hall, they asked me, like, what do you want your job title to be? And I said, well, I want to be a writer, because when I was at the Examiner, and I get it, because like when you say reporter and journalist, and obviously it's gotten less as time has gone on, but at its core, you're just reporting what's happening. And that's the approach I take whenever I go to Antifa protests, because I'm not one of those guys who wears a MAGA hat and has all these GoPros on me and tries to get in people's faces. Like, no, you're making an ass out of yourself. But if you want to do that, like, that's fine, but that's not how I roll. And that's why it's always interesting when Antifa has attacked me, because literally all I was doing was like recording them doing shady shit. That's like, and obviously they don't like that because they're whatever. So when I was joining Town Hall, I'm like, well, I don't want to be a reporter. I don't want to be a journalist, because I actually can have an opinion. I can actually voice that opinion in print and whenever I do interviews, because I couldn't do that at the Examiner. They don't want reporters giving an opinion. And I totally get that, because there is an editorial side and there's an opinion side, and let them have all the opinions. And so that's why I chose writer, because that. It's true. I'm a writer, and I can report on things, but then I can also give my take on what I just saw too. And so, but if I chose reporter, then that does give the connotation of that, that's objective. And yeah, all reporters should strive to do that, but that's just something that they don't do, or they try to frame it. And honestly, the big thing with media bias and the problem with media is not necessarily what they put in or making stuff up. Like fake news, yeah, it happens, but that's not. It's about framing. It's like if you go to any, Covington or any of the big media mess ups, it's not about making things up. It's about how they frame it. Because if you frame things a certain way, you can make it look like anything you want it to. And so the big issue I have is how media organizations, because it's always like with Pounce, right? Conservatives pounce. It's that you're making it seem like that, because it's like, oh, conservatives pounce on this Democrat saying something dumb. It's like, well, what, shouldn't the story be the dumb thing the Democrats said? Shouldn't that be the thing that you're focusing on first? And obviously, yeah, Republicans criticizing X, obviously that can be part of the story, but that shouldn't be the main focus of whatever you're talking about. It should be what they're reacting to. And I don't know why, but they still use pounce and seize. And this is like after
it's become a meme, dude.
It's because I have to think that they're doing this on purpose, just because they know it'll get attention because we're looking for it. I look for it. And I will post it on Twitter, like conservatives pounce or conservatives seize. Like, what are we doing today? But I don't know. So the big problem is framing. That's the big problem.
Man, I mean, there's a way to do it. Everybody has their own biases. Like, dude, I was literally just talking to Jim Laporta, the NatSec reporter from Newsweek today. I was like, dude, I can never be a journalist because my opinion is out there. I wear my opinion on my sleeve. Like, I have no problem writing about my opinion. And I am more than capable of writing dispassionately about certain issues. NatSec is national security is an easy topic to write dispassionately about. But yeah, man, I wear it all. I put it out there for the world. I wear it on my sleeve. It's not like I try, I don't hide it. Some of these reporters, man, some of these journalists, they love to say I'm a journalist. I take no sides. But like you said, framing's everything. And it's always been around. But I think it's just become far more prevalent and easier to spot because they can get away with it.
Yeah, and it's also Twitter. That's the bad thing about Twitter is because obviously it's not the town hall's account; it's my account, right?
Yeah.
So it's my brand, and everyone wants to build their brand, and yeah, that's good. But then there are bad ways to build that, and because you have Aaron Rupar over at Vox, and I don't. Yeah, I know. And I'm using him as an example because he does what he does what I do and do from time to time is posting video clips of whatever. Now, usually the way I do it, except for like the Vice thing, because that was like, there's no way to just be just objective about this because that was really stupid. But when I started things out, I would literally just post, who it was and what they said. No commentary, no nothing, because that I have kind of made mistakes before in the past because, people do misspeak and they do, say things that are weird and you can interpret in different ways sometimes. So usually just to avoid all that, like, look, I'm just the messenger for this. This is what they said. This is who they are and whatever. And then that's how, technically, I'm getting ratioed on my tweet, but obviously it's not me. It's people are just really upset at what this person said. Where you look at Rupar and he posts what's happening, but then he's always adding his own opinion and stuff like that. And that's fine. Like I don't care as long as you're being not disingenuous or you're not being a total hack about it, or you're being wrong. Like sometimes you're just flat out wrong. And like with Northam's, abortion, keep them comfortable comment and how whenever Trump would talk about that and Rupert would be like, oh, Trump's lying about what Northam said. It's like
the
no,
video was there, man. The video's out
right there, right? So it's like, look, I don't care if you're I'm not upset that he adds his opinion to it. It's just that sometimes he's just factually wrong on what he's trying to dunk on, and that goes for anybody. And that goes for anybody. It's just like, yeah, I don't. And this is, people don't have a problem with their opinion. This is like just as long as they're honest about it and upfront about it, and as long as it's an informed opinion, not just some random thing you pulled out in your back pocket.
No, you're absolutely correct, dude. Oh man, it's getting harder. Well, it's actually getting easier to spot bias in media reporting, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
All right, dude. I don't want to keep you too late. We had you for an hour. This was fun, man.
Oh yeah. No,
I gotta get you back on. What I'll do is I'm gonna start competing with, like, now that you're doing the cable rounds. I'll start competing for your appearances. Like when something big happens that you cover, I'm gonna be like, listen, I'll raise Tucker's offer of getting to finally find out what he smells like, which in my mind, he smells like fine tobacco and Drakkar Noir. Like that's what I have. Like what does Tucker smell like? That's what he looks like he smells like. But I'm going to try to outdo that and outbid him. Listen, it's the After Action Review, man. It's the big time. It's the big leagues.
Well, because here's the thing, like obviously I'm big in like political Twitter, but like you're pretty well plugged into mill Twitter, and that's that's a good and bad thing because
political Twitter is far more impressed than mill Twitter, and mill Twitter hates me. By the way, they hate me.
That's why I said you're plugged in, not popular.
They really dislike me, and because
mill Twitter is full of a bunch of liberals, and they're all anon accounts, and it's like. Look, I get there's DOD regulation, and it's weird because like for reservists, like there's different rules for us, right? But
I'm a state employee. Like I'm not a federal. Like I'm an employee of the state of Ohio, and you're still allowed to because I don't make. I have my background, but it's not like as a Green Beret. I think gay marriage is morally reprehensible or something, just I don't share like bad takes, like and say like as a Green Beret, like I don't try to do it like under the context of wearing a uniform, like
right. And that's why that's why I do like to, and that's why that's why my Twitter profile picture is not me at the range that one day.
mine is.
Well,
I like the way I look.
Well, that's perfectly fine. Well, that's
Plus, everybody thinks I'm faking. Everybody thinks I'm a faker.
Well,
if they just disagree with me, they're like, "You're fake."
Well, the reason why I didn't follow you for a long time is because didn't you like Photoshop that Bang energy drink in?
Yeah, I did. That was back when I was standing Bang, dude.
Yeah, well, and so I was looking at it. I'm like, who is this guy? And then I was like, well, that's a Photoshopped image. That doesn't seem very trustworthy.
Nah, dude, you got to get that. That was back before my takes had. I don't have clout. I have a little bit of clout, but it's very limited. And back then, man, like I was trying to push this phenomenal product that I loved, and all I was hoping for was maybe just a little corporate sponsorship, because they sponsor all these. They call them athletes. And
yeah.
It's literally women in bikinis lifting at a gym, and they take a photo like holding Bang. And they're like, Instagram, I'm getting my workout in. Like, no, you're literally wearing a bikini inside a public place. Like, you look ridiculous right now. It's not even like, like a sports bra and leggings. Like, no, you're like wearing a bikini. And then like the male athletes are just taking glamour shots. They're like, it's weird, dude. So I'm like, hey, we have a product here that I know was popular in the military. Like, let's make something happen. Let's outdo Monster and make Bang the official energy drink of hitters. And they ignored me, dude.
They must hate the troops.
I know, man.
Or they just don't like Army, which I totally get. I'll see. Well, also, I'm going to see if I can get a Bang sponsorship.
If you get a Bang sponsorship, it's not because of branch. It's because you have as many followers as I do.
And I got the blue check.
Secondly, I will protest Bang actively. And I will drink nothing but Reign, their direct competitor, manufactured by Monster, the superior product, by the way. And so don't even try that, man. You want a guerrilla war, dude? I'll give you a war of attrition.
Oh, jeez.
I will.
Well, I'm just but a MacTav planner, so I don't know any about that unconventional warfare nonsense.
Dude, I'll go full guerrilla warfare.
I have
over 300 confirmed kills. I graduated at the top of my class.
In Navy SEALs. Yeah. What the fuck did you say to me, you little shit? I'll let you know. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Dude. No. This is good. We should definitely do this again sometime.
Dude, anytime you want to come on and you got a hot button issue, you want to come on and talk Antifa, because I know this podcast is kind of like geared towards like national security, military issues, but like honestly, man, like the way Antifa conducts business and things like that, I would absolutely argue that Antifa is a national security issue.
I give them credit. They are, for as loosely organized they are very well organized within that loose context. Like it's very interesting, and how and it's the one here in DC, really quick. The one here in DC, when I was covering a protest in July, they were like marching in formation. They had their phrase. I think they were saying something in Spanish, and they were like pretty much all uniform with what they were wearing, and so they were really acting like a small tactical unit.
Were they saying "Si se puede"?
No. It was, they said like,
I've seen that Disney Channel movie too.
They were saying, I think they're saying like down with capitalism and down with fascism. I think my Spanish is not as great apparently as some of these guys are. But it's very interesting on how they operate, with how very much of a loose structure that they have, because obviously there's no one national leader or anything crazy like that. So I don't know. It's very interesting, and that's why I find them fascinating. Really, it's just
I find them fascinating because whenever they have their mugshots taken, you can smell them through the screen.
Yeah, you wonder how they smell?
I know how they smell. Oh God. They probably smell similar as I do after a 5-day patrol without a shower or anything.
No,
not good.
Not good. Not great, Bob.
Not spicy. Great, Bob. Spicy. Not even bad. Like it stings the nostrils.
Well, it's from that and the pepper spray that the cops used on them to bring them down.
Guys, Julio, thanks so much, buddy. This was fun.
Oh yeah, I enjoyed it. It was a great time. Great time.
So, guys, I'm gonna give my usual spiel because I am getting better at this. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, like, subscribe, comment, and share it far and wide. If you guys are listening on it via Spotify or iTunes, give me a 5-star review. It really helps. And feel free to leave a review. Turns out the After Action Review is now 96th on the Apple Podcasts government category. We are the 96th largest podcast by viewership. I have no idea if that's big, but they sent me an email about it. So
you know what's going to be after my appearance?
95th.
No, it's going to jump up to 69.
69?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
quite nice,
very
right?
astute.
Quite nice.
Listen, it'll be even better if you can get me just get a clip on like cable news. Something that makes me look good. You know what I'm saying? Be like next appearance you do, like on Tucker, just be like, don't take my word for it. Take my very handsome and hot take having friends Nick's word on it, and just roll the tape. And then here I am, like wearing flannel or a Boogaloo shirt, and be like, you have to listen to him because
he's a Green Beret.
He's got a very basic education. He does not have any advanced degrees. He's not known in any important circles, but my goodness, he has a green hat on top of his head. All right, dude. Thanks so much for coming on, and we'll have you on, man. Like anytime, seriously, just let me know. Be like, oh, Nick, Antifa is acting all squirrely. I want to talk about it. I'll be like, yes, we absolutely talk about Antifa.
Oh, yeah. Oh, don't worry.
All right, buddy. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Anytime.
All right, take it easy.